Hey there, beautiful people. Welcome to FANTI, the podcast for all those complex and complicado conversations about the gray areas in our lives. I am your light brown sugar, Jarrett Hill.
Not light brown. I guess that makes me dark brown, Tre'vell Anderson. Coming up on...
Not already.
Coming up on the show today, we are talking about outing. Yeah, I know you're like, why are we talking about outing in 2023? Yeah, I said it, the year of our Lord.
Are you sure?
And Beyonce Christ.
Are you sure?
And I'll explain it. I'll explain it later. But first, Jarrett, you have a thing.
Yes. So, okay. I'm not really doing a new thing here, but maybe I'm doing a new thing here, but I don't know yet. We gonna see. Tre'vell and I were just on an episode of Pop Culture Happy Hour that I plugged a week too early and is out now as you are listening to this podcast, on the new stand-up special from Monique. And I said in that interview, in that conversation, that I had some questions that weren't really any of my business, right? Some things that I just would like to know about the production of the special. And so in that, I started thinking about other things that weren't really my business, but I had some curiosity around. And I wanted to bring them here and see if you were also curious about them and see what you might think about these particular conversations.
Okay.
It kind of started about two different issues. One, last week we talked a little bit about the LSU women's basketball thing. You know, we're a big sports show, especially when it comes to the basketball.
Oh yes, dribbling.
Of the NC the women's basketball is NCAA, right? We have a lesbian on staff. You can say something in the chat, Laura.
It's NCAA. Yes, we don't need the lesbians. I know that.
Well, I know you host a daily news show, and
I do.
I'm traumatized 2 or 3 times a week when I hear "Good morning, I'm Tre'vell Anderson" as I wake up.
You're welcome.
Over on What a Day.
Good morning, What a Day. Available every weekday. Okay, wherever you get Slayworthy podcasts, daily news with a little razzle dazzle.
Come on back. So we are.
I'm always here.
One of those stories is the LSU women's basketball team, and the way that they're winning after, with all the controversy on television about the sportsman-like conduct and the conversation around the 2 lead women there. Jill Biden offering the losing team to also come to the White House, and how that pissed off a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And I was really curious about the conversation Jill Biden may or may not have had with Michelle Obama in the last week. And because I feel like Michelle Obama might be one of Jill Biden's black friends that is available in these kinds of moments.
Oh, wow.
Well, let's think about it.
Oh, wow.
Jill Biden was second lady to Michelle Obama for 8 years. They worked on various different initiatives together. What?
Okay, but I'm sorry. I see their relationship as very...
ceremonial,
black coworker, white coworker. Yeah, that's my good work friend. But bitch, when I left the job, I left her as well. Leave me alone.
I don't know you, right?
Very that.
Well, I get that, but I recognize that they have been connected now ever since, right? They are always going to be
sure.
They will always have that legacy together.
Absolutely.
Michelle is one of the few people that Jill can call on for experience as a past first lady, because I'm assuming she's not calling Melania.
Likely not.
And so I think that they have some kind of relationship. We've seen them campaign together and things like that. And so I was like, I wonder what it's like to be Michelle Obama when Jill Biden has really fucked it up like this, and you got to maybe explain this. And I was like, I wonder what that conversation is like.
As long as it's Viola Davis as Michelle Obama?
Absolutely not.
Talking to...
Nigga. I'm not doing it. I can't remember how she said the word, but it did irk me a little bit.
She was doing that thing with her lips. So it's interesting, because I think you're right that I am always interested in, when it comes to these political situations, what the black people are saying to the white, largely white folks, mostly in charge, when they fuck up on a race issue. What is Karine Jean-Pierre, saying to them, in the Oval Office? Because, she got to go out there and
right.
be the spokesperson for the foolishness, right, that they done did. I just hope that she is tearing them a new one every single time. Who just won't like you? Like,
but my guess is she can't.
Probably not.
Right? Like Karine Jean-Pierre, White House press secretary, the first Black queer person in that role. It's just like I wonder what it's like to be in that situation. The other conversation that I was actually really curious about was completely unrelated. Was about Chloe Bailey's new album. And all of the conversation around Chloe Bailey, and obviously Hailey has The Little Mermaid coming out, but I was really curious about what Chloe Bailey's conversations with Beyonce were like in this period, right before the album comes out, like finishing it up and doing all the things and like getting ready, and then it being out in the world and like being critiqued and people having things to say about it and those different kinds of things. I've been thinking about like, I wonder what Beyonce has been saying to Chloe Bailey. It ain't none of my business, but like, I'm curious about it. What do you think? What do you think it's giving?
I feel like Beyonce, I don't know, because we always have this thought about like Beyonce's hand over, the kids, right? Her, they're not kids; these are young women. But when they first came into Beyonce's orbit, they were kids, right? And then we've all seen, particularly with Chloe, what we believe are Beyonce-isms, right? Peppered throughout her performance style and some of the vocals and whatnot. But Beyonce should be preparing for said tour.
Well, that's
ain't no need for no feedback. Let that girl do what she do. Hopefully. But I'm sure Chloe sent it to her, texted it to her, a WeTransfer link to Beyonce.
That Parkwood was like, that Parkwood is tight. Baby, that ain't a WeTransfer. It's Signal, and then a WeTransfer under that, and then another thing, and then another thing. Right. You got to put your thumbprint and you scan your retina.
Listen, we not doing no leaks, honey. But I'm sure, because I always think about just the natural pressure that there is to be like Beyonce's protege, right? And we should note, right? Parkwood, Beyonce has put her hand on a number of up and coming artists who we don't know about today, but we do know about Chloe and Hailey, and so pay attention. That felt very Hotepi conspiracy theory, very Illuminati. Pay attention. Are you watching? And that's not what I meant.
Oh no,
I just want to be clear because we on the YouTubes, and baby, this goes down a whole different rabbit hole, and we don't want that. Abort mission. No, thank you. No, thank you.
I heard it as like someone taking strays, and you heard it as Illuminati. So, it is what it is.
Because those videos, anytime they talk about Beyonce, they be like, ooh, the rock and the flames in the eyes.
You know what? Let's not talk about it because the transcript is gonna go into the internet, and we done already said the I word and her name too many times. We gonna go ahead on and move. Thank you so much for listening to the segment. I'm scared now. A little bit nervous that you went down that rabbit hole.
Oh, I love that for us.
But I part of me was thinking about the fact that Beyonce is getting ready for world tour and that she's like, in rehearsal mode. And I'm thinking about all of the behind the scenes that we saw in Homecoming and like imagining that it must be to another scale, right? Like, is Beyonce not eating meat or lamb or fish or sugar or caffeine or whatever, and like, what is it like to be in communication with Beyonce in that period while you're dropping an album and you're her protege and it's your first? I was really curious about what that might be like. So
okay, but you didn't say whether you liked the album or not. I haven't listened to it. Did you like it? Do you approve?
I enjoyed it. It's kind of like SZA's album for me. Like, I've been able to turn it on and play it in the background, but I don't really have any favorites yet. Right? Like, I can enjoy it and like bop along and recognize a couple, but like I haven't really gotten any songs where I'm like, oh, this is my shit.
Okay. I haven't.
You haven't listened to either one of them.
I listened to SZA, but I didn't latch on to it like the broader world has latched on to it. There was a couple songs.
Because you're a member of the Illuminati? I'm curious about what you were doing there. I'm scared. We want to know what y'all think about this. Get to break. We got a commercial and a show coming up. I'm nervous now. God. We shouldn't have done any of that.
I serve an awesome God. Okay.
Oh, hello. Come on. Honey, that came out your Shondo.
Let's go to break.
Go to break. We'll be right back.
I'm Lisa Hannawalt.
And I'm Emily Heller.
Wow, Emily, we've been doing this podcast for 10 years.
I know, but hey, don't worry. You can jump in at literally any episode and hear us talk about some of our favorite stuff. Caterpillars becoming butterflies.
Martha Stewart flying around in a private jet full of trees. Yes, you heard me right. Trees.
Neighbors becoming enemies. Just kidding.
Whatever messed up stuff we can find on Wikipedia.
Our impeccable taste in everything from dogs to TV shows to bodily functions.
And horses. Lots and lots of horses. Come for our horned up rants about the world. Stay for the catchy theme songs.
You might not learn anything, but we're a good hang.
Baby Geniuses. Every other week on MaximumFun.org.
Welcome back, beautiful people. So, a few weeks ago, you may have heard for the first time the name Randy McNally. Okay. He is the Lieutenant Governor of Tennessee. And back in March, it was reported that McNally had used his Instagram account, you know, the main one. He ain't had no Finsta, okay, to like and comment on what has been termed sexually suggestive social media posts of a much younger, absolutely homosexual man. A perplexing action to so many because one, he is married to a woman named Janice. Hey Janice, how you doing, girl? And two,
Probably not good.
well, mind my business. What ain't that the last segment? This ain't none of my business.
Listen.
And two, because Tennessee is the state that passed a ban on drag, the impact of which could stretch far beyond drag, right? And so it's like, oh, they was basically saying like, oh, you talking about how this, gay man, could, brighten up sunshine in your day and all of that, and yet y'all passing, anti-queer legislation. You have a question?
No, when you say they said whatever you just said, who might they be? Because I'm curious about who the person is that was speaking it like that.
Oh, well, that was my translation for the people. Okay.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
But the they is, there was articles, Daily Beast covered it. Other podcasters talked about it. Now, as all of the conversation was happening and the reportage was happening, this kind of resurfaced various conversations in my feeds around the politics of outing. Okay. Now, to be clear, this Randy McNally situation is not a situation of outing, right? Which is, here's your definition, Jarrett. Historically, right, outing is thought of as the practice of revealing the sexual or gender identity of a person without their consent. And McNally, right, even, he played off the comments as him, just talking with his constituents, okay? And he says he uses his social media to talk with everybody from all backgrounds and races and orientations.
I bet he does.
How you doing? But, it did get me thinking about, for example, is there ever any time when outing or disclosing information about a person without their knowledge and or consent is ever acceptable? Okay. Again, this wasn't a situation about outing, right? Like there was no I'm gonna spill this person's tea, legitimately. It was like, he was using his public Instagram account, and people just started reporting on it. But hopefully y'all see the connection of how we all made the jump towards outing. And so I wanted to bring the topic of outing to the FANTI Table Talk because I think the answer to that question about if there's ever any time in which outing, right, broadly defined, is okay, is acceptable, I believe those answers might be a little bit, complex and complicado. And so that's what we will be discussing today. I wanted to start our discussion asking you, Jarrett, have you ever had a moment, a time in your life or experience in which you felt like you were outed? It can be sexuality related. It can be another identity marker related. I'm happy to go first if you need time to think.
No, I'm ready.
Good.
I'm a professional. I really don't have anything, but no, I'm kidding.
I'm gonna fight you.
I have two different instances that come up for me. Number one is like being outed as gay before I had embraced that. And I mean that like even in my teen years, right? And like people telling me that I was gay or calling me a faggot on the street, in the schoolyard or whatever, right? Like I feel like that's one kind that comes up for me that as a kid I remember before even knowing what that meant, and then after knowing what it meant and being and rejecting it or like trying to push it away or pray it away or act like it wasn't true. That comes up for me. But I also think about being HIV positive and having a partner who tried to weaponize it against me and how like traumatic that was to me. I was positive for years before I even told my best friends. And so I had just told them within like a month before this even happened, not knowing that that was going to come in the way that it did. And like I had a partner who we'd had a fight and we broken up, and he was trying to use my status as as a weapon to be able to kind of be coercive or be an asshole, really, in the moment. And like I remember one how unsafe I felt about the information not being mine, or not just being mine anymore, and like other people having it and being able to do something with it. Um, but I also just remember being really glad that I had outed myself in that instance, and told my friends about being positive and kind of dealt with that. But like the idea of someone having your information and being able to use it against you in that way it's really scary and painful and hard. And that's what comes to mind for me when I think about a time that I was outed, almost outed, or like someone was trying to weaponize outing me. What about you?
My situation, so my coming out, I was outed, which I think is slightly different than what you articulated with your situation. I'm talking about being like, I was in college. I knew that I was, not heterosexual at minimum. And my grandmama, she opened that closet door and kicked me right on out, honey. And I think it's slightly different than what you articulated, right? Because similarly, I had grown up with people, projecting or articulating what they saw as some sort of queerness, right? Before I had the language or even identified or accepted those things. But I think part of outing, how I think of it, is the individual in question has to have like accepted it, realized it, like they see the truth of whatever the thing may be, and as opposed to like, when we are prepubescent, many of us, we hear these words, but we're not thinking about, dipping in and doing it, with, whomever. What? And so, but we both mentioned kind of the gay part of outing, which is like, I think, where most people think historically, right? It's like, how do you navigate telling or not telling, perhaps as it's supposed to be, other people's business. And this got me thinking particularly about like DL or discreet or otherwise masc and masculine presenting homosexuals.
Well,
yes.
I think there's an important distinction between DL, discreet, and Masc.
Sure, there can be distinctions. I am not listing them all at once to collapse them. I am listing them all at once to note the different identities specifically that people have, and ways they go about articulating, those distinctions. And you know what, Jarrett? What? Let's pull up your Webster dictionary. Would you like to give us the distinctions between DL, discreet, masc, and what other identities you think the people need to know?
First of all, you black bitch, let me tell you something. What you're not gonna do is put me on the spot.
Well, you the one who wanted to make a distinction. You the one.
This is actually, this is interesting because I am not gonna tell y'all all of my business, but I've been thinking about this distinction between DL and discrete more recently. I'll just put it that way. And like I think about DL as being someone who is in one way or another lying about their sexual identity or preferences, right? And to some degree probably faking what their situation is. Well, that's lying. I think of discrete as being someone who is out seemingly, but like works with discretion about their sexual lives, right? And is more discerning about the ways that they want to share that information in the world. And Masc, I think of as being distinctly about like, you know, your performance and the way that you show up in the world. And so like that's why I'm thinking about the Masc as, you know, we use that language for men and masculine presenting folks, or masks as we call it now. So like I just wanted to be clear that those are distinctly different.
Sure.
What's this face?
Sure. Sure. I think I do believe there is a difference in how folks employ that language. But this isn't an episode about the language choices that some of y'all employ.
I was gonna say, we might have to talk about that.
Cause my God, today. But my point in bringing up this
Wait, did I say something wrong?
This group, this category of, I don't think you said anything wrong. I think you have articulated with great clarity how the people who use some of those terms for themselves would articulate the use of said terms. And I think that articulation could always be unpacked. But what I'm trying to say here, okay, this is a long way of getting to an example I had in my head, which was, you know, like sometimes you go to a function. Now, I'm the type of person who, you know, I can be in all different types of spaces. You ain't never gonna be sure where you see me. You might see me with, you know, the masks, because, you know, everybody need a little femme energy to break up the room, okay? Everybody need a little something. But then you also see me, you know, with the girls.
I'm sorry, I looked away. What do we need? I missed it. I
cut it out.
I happen to be on another screen.
This has been the longest intro to the FANTI section ever, okay?
I know that's not true. Because I done wrote them, so I know they'd be long.
Well, you do like to talk, absolutely.
That was too much. Carry on.
But, you know, so I say that to say, you know, I could be in all different types of events, right? And so I found myself in events with, you know, the homies, as we call it. And you see people, you meet people, because it's with the homies, right? And even though I'm, you know, my whatever bits of estrogen I got, I am, you know, spreading it around in the room, but there's a whole lot of testosterone, okay, right? You make the assumption in your head that despite all of the testosterone, right, you know that these are gay men, or men who, you know,
have sex with men.
Oh, we gonna get real clinical on them, okay? And so you know, but then you out and about somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. That maybe has no aura of queerness present, right? Mm-hmm. Besides, you know, my being in the space. And it's, and you see, or you feel, and you sense a different way of being, perhaps. Or maybe the same way of being, but like, you don't know.
A familiar way.
Because here's the thing. When I walk up to a person, or when I walk into a space, you know, I'm blowing up the spot. People gonna make their assumptions about me and about whoever I am. You know, I love interrupting a conversation. Oh, excuse me, I just want to say hi, girl. Yeah, how you doing? You know, but like the act of that, right, could be an outing of in certain ways, right? Like, and I know that took me very long, journey to get there, but this was my point.
I'm glad I brought snacks.
Me too. I have some oatmeal right here. Anyway, but like it can operate as an outing of sort, and then also about like when you have those people who fall into those categories, and then I'm out even with the girls, with the dolls, the girls and the girls, and somebody comes up in conversation, and that the world don't know they tea, but they tea.
Mm-hmm.
What does one do? Because you recognize that this person has the language that they have, or they're moving and navigating the ways that they're moving and navigating for a reason, whether you agree with the reason or not, but for a reason, right? And like I found myself just I just mind my fucking business. I just sit there.
The scenario that was coming up in my head as you were kind of giving that extremely long explanation.
You extended it. It was your fault.
About like the being out in the world and you're not like in a queer space. That made me think about like being in the grocery store, being out somewhere and like seeing a man with his partner, like female partner, who will make eye contact for too long or will say something or give a look or something. And you're like, right? Like, or, oh, for real? You know what I mean? Like, that is what came up for me immediately. And I'm like, it's an awkward situation to be in. And it's like, oh, sis, you don't even know. Like, that is what was coming up for me as you said that.
Well, the people, to that example, the people would say that some people would say that it's not any of my business, right? Why your man is looking at me, and like that's something, because part of the idea, because if you were to go to the wife and say, I don't know if you know, but your man was looking at me a little too long, like you're not gonna do that, right?
No, I mean, no. I am more so thinking, I feel like I'm so nervous in this whole conversation and I don't know why.
Are we tapping on something, friend? Hold on now.
Well, no, I mean, I know plenty of women who I've seen with partners who have been like, oh, that's a choice, right? Or like, oh, that certainly appears as something that is not what you're saying, right? Or, I wouldn't have expected him with her. Okay. Those kinds of things. And so that's what I'm more so thinking about, like, okay. But okay, you wanted to kind of also look at this through a couple of different lenses.
Yes. So we've got that one, right? And then also you already mentioned your status as being pause. And I remember, so obviously there's, we know the world that we live in, all of the stigma, all of the miseducation, uneducation, et cetera, right? And so I can't say what I was going to say because then it was going to come out real bad. I caught myself.
Oh, now you have to.
Absolutely not.
This is the second week in a row that you done caught yourself.
What I will say is that, sometimes I speak before I think.
No.
Right? And so I remember, shut your mouth. I remember when you first told me that you were pause. I don't even know if you remember this.
I don't.
But you were out of town and I needed to go to your house to get something to send to you, right? And that was the way
oh, medicine.
Yes. And that, yes.
Right? I don't even remember that, but yeah, okay.
But that was the way, because you was like, I need this medicine, like, can you go to my house, get it, and mail it to me? And I was like, yeah, and I just grabbing whatever you tell me to get. I ain't even look at the thing. And then, you felt compelled to disclose to me. And, I spent $160 to mail that to you at FedEx.
What?
I don't know if I ever told you that, but
why?
Anyway.
What? Where was I? Do I even remember this?
You was like in Napa Valley or somewhere like that.
Oh, that sounds right. Okay.
And we needed to overnight it. Anyway. But I remember when you first told me, this is before you had like, publicly disclosed, or publicly you posted on social media. That's what I said, because that's what you did. And I just remember being like, oh, I don't know if any moment that this would come up, but oftentimes, we'll get emails and it'll be like, oh, these people are working on this thing, or they're looking for people who fit this particular criteria. And I remember there being an instance where somebody had reached out, because I think there was a World AIDS Day or some shit, was coming up, and they were looking for, some people. And I was like, well, I know, but I don't think the world know. So I can't, because if I would have been like, oh yeah, hit up Jarrett, he'd be good for this. Nah, added you to the world, and you didn't ask for that, you didn't consent to that. But it would also be very, it could also be very like innocuous. Is that the word for me? Right, as the person who's not, who's not pos, whose status it is not. Am I making any sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you usually don't, but I got that. And I kind of, I forgot about that. And I've had to disclosure is a really interesting thing. We talk about disclosure in various different ways. And all of the different intersections in which we exist, and disclosure happens, all the time. But sharing that with folks was something that I'd been feeling I should do, but had been trying to figure out how I was going to do it. And we live in the world that we live in and work in the industry that we work in. And I was thinking should I try to do something with it? Should I make it a thing? Should I just say it? And World AIDS Day came in 2021, and I saw various different folks that I knew that were posting about being positive. And something that had been really difficult for me, and that was knowing a lot of different positive people who had never told me they were positive, right? But having heard someone say, or people will disclose other people's statuses, right? Or and sometimes it's gossipy, and sometimes it's for a reason. But having known so many people were positive and not talking about it, it became important to me to just say it. And after having come out about it, I've had so many people shared their status with me that I would have never otherwise known. And so that kind of scenario was a really big, it was an interesting moment to go through, because I told my family the same day I disclosed. And because I just wanted to get it out and get it over with, because I was tired of not telling people. But had I been outed with that, it would have, I think at that time it would have been fine, because I was ready to tell people. But had it happened earlier, I would have, been devastated by it. So
right, and that situation you mentioned at the beginning, right, about the person who was trying to weaponize it, right? The one, fuck him, and I better not know him. Okay,
he's a good person.
He's a good person. Hey, we all have the capacity to be good people. We all do, absolutely. We all have the capacity. We all have the capacity. We absolutely do.
Now, mind you, I will say, we did not stay together after that, to be clear. But he's a good person who's a human being who made some choices that they're not proud of.
That's you extending your grace. Okay, one of the things I wanted to say that you talked about, disclosing your status, right? I also think about, the politics of outing around transness and non-binariness and pronouns and the related therein, because Michael Chin and I go to the same barber, and it was a barber that I randomly found. Yes.
Can I say Michael's in the shower right now listening to this and oh, okay.
Now how I get in
what just happened? Exactly. Michael Chen, friend of the show. Yeah.
But Michael and I go to the same barber. Yes, Michael Chen, gospel episode, and Clock Sisters biopic, and something really great coming soon that you all will find out about in due time.
And our Christmas episode, what was it? What Mary didn't know, a very sexy Christmas
Yes.
Christmas
That sounds right.
Christmas or
Yes.
something like that. Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So I needed a barber because my barber, had left the country, not the country, the state. And I wanted to go to a queer barber, right? Looked up High and Tight, which is a queer-owned barbershop here in LA. Everything all right?
I just love that title.
Okay. And found this barber there. Went to him first. It was fine. Michael said he needed a barber. Passed on the information. I haven't been to this barber since. Okay, but Michael has gone a few times. I went back to the barber on Friday, and the barber, says thank you for the referral. Da 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 da. And the barber begins to tell me that he was talking about me to Michael, and that Michael had corrected him on my pronouns, right? And the barber, apologized. He's black, Jamaican, gay dude or whatever. So he like apologized. He was like, I'm still learning the language. Da 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 da. Cool, whatever. And I began thinking to myself, okay, that like obviously this is totally fine. It's a queer space. Everything's cool. Yes, correct the pronouns. Power to the people. Allyship, accompliceship, all that stuff. Right? We love Michael, but my mind, she likes to wander. And so I just was like, well, now, if this was a different barbershop space, how would I, even though, yeah, obviously my pronouns is my pronouns and I want people to refer to me as my pronouns, but how would I feel if somebody without me there had like, or even if I was there, corrected my pronouns, right? And like, which is a disclosure of sorts, right? Mm-hmm. If that would have made me feel away, or if that would have like, if that would have made me feel safe or unsafe or uncertain about being there. And I didn't know. And I don't know if that is outing. Part of me thinks that the outing part of the active outing comes with like the intent is maybe it's intention. Right? Like, are you sharing this information for the purpose of like doing a gotcha or doing a, some nefarious purposes or whatever? Or are you just like, oh no, I just want you to respect that person, and like, this is that person, this is how that person shows up in the world or something like, or like if I know of a job that's looking for, one of the girls, and I say, oh, here's a list of the girls, but some of the girls don't, may not want to be identified, publicly as a girl.
As the girl.
Right. Professionally as a girl, So I don't, that's where my mind went with it.
This is interesting because we also, you and I share a dentist. And when I'm in the dentist office, your name is on the screen as the referral.
As it should be, period.
Yeah, you trauma everywhere. But like, I remember that being interesting, and I didn't know why. I saw your name was on the screen, and I was like, they hadn't addressed it, and it didn't say referral. It just said like off to the side, it said your name. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's a great way for them to be able to remember who the referrals come from and that kind of stuff, and like make that connection and all that kind of stuff. And I get that. And like, there have been plenty of instances where someone else has been addressing me about you because we host a show, we do the organization, we have the book, like all this other stuff.
Yes, you won't leave me alone.
And like, I'm always,
leave me alone.
I cannot get away from you. The framing is always so interesting. I won't leave you alone. I can't get away.
I don't want you. I don't want you. I don't want you. I don't want you.
Now I'm like, get your shit. Never mind. But I'm always kind of in that moment of like correcting someone about the pronouns and like wondering when to do it and the right way to do it. And is this the right person to do that with? And like, I fully get that. Have you ever, I won't say have you ever, because I'm sure you have, but like, how do you think about when you tell people and when you don't? Like, I just heard someone else telling a story of like meeting someone and like misgendering themselves because they didn't feel safe or comfortable saying what their pronouns were. And I'm curious about what that experience is like for you.
Oh yeah. I feel like it is the act of having to misgender myself is, as every day has changed my draws at this point, as a means, and it has been as a means of just like survival or a means of like necessity. Like, for example, you go to, before this year, right? So many of the, you know, when you buy a flight or whatever, you got to check male or female, right? They've expanded those options now, praise the Lord. But like, I think of that. I think of when you go to, you know, when I go to the bunion doctor.
I just saw like neon sign that said bunion doctor open.
And then just being in community with people who, like, for example, knew me before I used they them pronouns, who who have seen or have not seen, right, the journey since. And you know, I don't you part of me, I'm both one of those people who's like, listen, as long as it wasn't said, you know, with malice or ill intent, let's keep it the fuck moving if we need to keep it moving. But if you all, I think I've told you this before, if y'all want to pull somebody to the side outside of my vantage point and be like, just that, you know, their pronouns are they them, you know, that's fine. But you know, there's certain instances where like the correction happens and it becomes a whole to-do, and anybody got time for that. I'm just trying to eat my light bite.
She said, I'm trying to eat this macaroni and cheese ball, and you trying to out me.
Listen, and it's like, but it's like with certain people or certain instances, I do think there's always a way to go about doing it, but like, there's a time and a place for everything, and for me, let me get this quick disclaimer, right? There are some people who you need to get their pronouns right all the time. You need to get their pronouns right all the time. They're going to be pissed at you when you get it wrong. They're going to hold you accountable in whatever way they feel necessary to hold you accountable. I am not one of those people, but those people exist and their vantage point on it is legitimate. Get their shit right. Me, on the other hand, you know, girl, listen, if it's going to take too long, let's just move on.
I mean, we've seen you evolve on that on this show, right? Like at the beginning of this show in 2020, you were very much, the statement that you would make about it was, as long as they spell my name right on the check, I don't care. And since us having conversations on the show about pronouns and about gender, like you've made a marked change on that. We've also seen that with your name in the last 6 months, right? With Tre'vell and Tre'vell. You're welcome. It's okay. But like, it's true. We've kind of seen that evolution. I can say, like, being out in the world with you in person, it is always a moment of like, oh, do we correct this person right now? Do I say something? Do I let them say something? Do we even address it? And it is a new experience every single time. Because it's always in a different scenario. It's always with a different person. It's always in, you know, a different kind of setting or whatever. So it's, you know, a consistent thing to always think about and question.
It is.
Did you have anything else here that you wanted to touch on before we roll?
I did, and I just wanted to note for the people, I don't know if we actually talked about any outing at all. But you know, I hope you got something to think about.
No, I mean, I think when we think about outing, we tend to think about it as about someone's sexuality, right? But we don't think about the various ways that we are sharing other people's information and the impact that has on them. And like, outing has a broader context than simply being outed by, you know, your comments on a queer person's Instagram when you're the lieutenant governor who is, you know, advocating for queer people to have legislation against them.
I just want to add a quick asterisk to whatever I just said. I don't remember what I said, but just in case, wow. You know, I love when people who feel compelled or interested in like being allies, accomplices in terms of like correcting people's pronoun usage. I love when you do it, just you don't make it a big deal. And most often doing it in front of me makes it a big deal, because now that person who you are correcting, oh my God, I'm so, and it's like, girl, calm down, you know? And so I find that, you know, if you would like to correct people on my pronouns, you know, do it. And I've told you this before, do it when I go to the bathroom, or you go to the bathroom and you do it. And you know, like it can, uh-oh, everything all right? You made some eyeballs.
No, I'm processing, like, me go to the bathroom. Oh, if they went to the bathroom. God, okay.
I'm saying, like, you know, if I go to the bathroom and there's somebody at the table that's been using the wrong pronouns, that's a great opportunity to be like, hey, just let you know, it's they, them pronouns. You know, it's cool, you know, but it don't have to be a thing, right? That way that person can process without me being there, and I don't have to worry about whatever labor they want me to do as they navigate the fact that they have just misgendered me. And so do it outside of my, which is why I say that example with Michael, I think was a great example, right? Because you just corrected the person when I'm not there. And he can do his own navigating of whatever wrapping around the language he needs to do so that when I show back up the next time, he's appropriate. Okay, anyway, let's go to break.
We want to know what y'all think about this conversation about outing homosexuals and DL people. Hit us up on the Instagram, the Twitter, and the TikTok at FANTI Podcast. Use the hashtag FANTIFam to jump into the conversation. We are going to come right back with why y'all hate us so much and listener feedback and dishonorable mentions. Don't go away.
Are you tired of being picked on for only wanting to talk about your cat at parties?
Do you feel as though your friends don't understand the depth of love you have for your guinea pig?
When you look around a room of people, do you wonder if they know sloths only have to eat 1 leaf a month?
Have you ever dumped someone for saying they're just not an animal person?
Us too.
She's Alexis B. Preston.
She's Ella McLeod.
And we host Comfort Creatures, the show where you can't talk about your pets too much, animal trivia is our love language, and dragons are just as real as dinosaurs.
Tune into Comfort Creatures every Thursday on Maximum Fun.
Welcome back, beautiful people. We are going to get into our listener feedback segment. We've got an email here from Lael. This is in response to our wonderfully named episode, Color of Friendship. This is our episode about having white friends. Longtime listener who is white and wanted to share a bit of my thoughts on your most recent episode. You know what? It's always interesting when white people tell us they white.
I appreciate it because it's context that we sometimes need in these emails and be like, I don't know who you are or what you're giving. Yeah. I like when they give us their race, give us the pronouns, give us a little bit more context sometimes. I think it's great.
Mm-hmm. You want the whole, just give us the whole profile. Okay, well, Lael says, go ahead. You have something you want to say?
Well, because I will say, I think that podcasts do a really bad job of giving advice, right? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes that is because people don't give enough context, or we only have so much context to be able to give you advice. And so I just appreciate that extra context sometimes.
Yeah, sure. So Lael says, the short of it is, I agree wholeheartedly with the points you brought up during your episode. There is one point I didn't hear in the podcast, however, that I think is critical for all listeners. It is okay that you were taught to be racist or misogynistic. You had no choice in what you were taught. It's not acceptable to use that to be disrespectful to any person. It is our personal responsibility as human beings to constantly challenge why we think whatever we think and adjust our attitudes. I mention this mostly because so many people these days seem to despair things ever changing, especially white people. It's not your job as people of color to educate anyone about your experience. So as an egalitarian white person, I just want to put it out there. Being racist or misogynistic doesn't mean you can't listen, learn, and be a better person. I know that's kind of the whole concept of what your show is, but I feel like white people respond to being called racist emotionally first. I know I did, and it's worth pointing out again. Thanks, as always, for sharing your voices.
I think that white people need to get some clarity on what the word racist means, right? I agree with you here, Lyle. I think that I think we're pronouncing your name right. Lael, Lael. Is that what we said, Lyle? I think that
I don't know them.
White people. I was more so asking about what you had said, bitch. But I think that whenever you call a white person racist, they are immediately like, it's the worst possible thing that you could call them. And maybe it is, right? But like, I think that white people have this idea that being a racist means that you're a slave owner with the cat of nine tails in your back pocket, right? And like, I think about how viscerally white people respond to that as a name or as a title or as a thing. And it's like, no, all white people are racist and it's impossible not to be, right? And like the idea of being racist is not something that I think we have to be so uptight about. And when I say we, I mean y'all. And like, it's important that we are clear about like what we mean when we say something is racist or someone is racist or a thing is an example of racism. Racism is an ism that exists because of the way that the world has been set up and the ways that privilege and the construct of race have been utilized. And so for white people that get offended, it's like, take a look at what racism is and the ways that it shows up and the ways that it manifests itself in you, and like calm down and just try to be less racist, right? Try to be anti-racist. Figure out where those intersections show up for you and be able to act, be able to move with that knowledge and be better.
All right. I would just add
Nothing.
I just want people to do the reading. Just do the reading. By which I mean, read something. Talk to some people that know something. That's it.
Listen to a podcast.
There's so many books, there's so many reading lists out there to get your self-education on. One of them you should think about is We See Each Other, a Black trans journey through TV and film, available May 9th. Amen. Now it's time for our dishonorable mentions. These are the stories of people that caught our attention this week that deserve a call out, either for their good or for their foolishness. Would you like to kick us off?
No, go ahead.
Wonderful. So I just have one mention. I don't think we mentioned it on the show last week because of when we recorded or whatnot. The whole thing around the Justins, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, in Tennessee, being voted to be expelled. They were expelled from the house or the chamber, expelled from the chamber. One of them at the time of our recording, Justin Jones, has been there was some sort of vote to put him back in the chamber, but there's gonna be a special election coming up. And I just want to say, y'all, that we already knew they wasn't hiding no more. But it's getting wild out there, and I just want y'all to be paying attention. That's it. I just want everybody to be paying attention. And once you pay attention, do whatever action you feel like you need to do based on what you have been watching and witnessing. That is all for me.
Well, I want to first give a shout out. Feels like inappropriate, but there's a man that I follow named Alfred Brooks II, and there's a photo of me on Instagram wearing a t-shirt that says, "I'm the teacher Fox News warns you about." His business is a great business of like different things. He's a teacher and he has all these cool graphic t-shirts. I've been following him for a number of months, if not years now. And recently he had a post asking people to pray for his son, who is, I believe he's 16, if I'm not mistaken, who was out on a trip with friends and jumped into a river or into a body of water to help save someone who was drowning. And ended up getting swept under the currents himself. And then another person jumped in to save him and they got swept under the currents. And over the course of a few days on Instagram, we saw this go from pray for my son to my son has passed away, trying to save someone. And it was just kind of a stunning thing to see happen on Instagram, to see a kid wanting to save someone else who was drowning, and to see him pass away. And so I just wanted to send love to the family. I know that's an incredibly difficult thing to be experiencing, and to a thing that no one ever expects to happen. But I wanted to just send some love over to the family. They have a GoFundMe on their Instagram page. And I'll make sure that we have the link to all of that. So to the Brooks family, just sending y'all love. I also want to give a shout out. I've done a shout out here before in a hard left turn to the Southern Roots Vegan Bakery out of Texas. They are friends of Michael Chin, who you outed on the show earlier today. The Southern Roots
outed. Hold on. Hold on.
I mean, outed as being a person who goes to a barber, and gave away the fact that they would share clippers with someone like you.
They were sanitized. It's all right. Everything's okay.
Noted. Okay. And I just want to shout out the Southern Roots Vegan Bakery. They have delicious baked goods and they ship all over the country. We'll have the link to be able to get more information from them. I just got a package of cinnamon rolls. Baby, when I tell you, Michael was like, no, what you do is you put them in the air fryer on reheat for a couple of minutes, and baby, they got me together. So shout out to Southern Roots Vegan Bakery. Lastly, I want to give a shout out to a friend of the show, a listener of the show, Larae Ferry, who also comes I hung out with Michael yesterday, so these two came from Michael. Apparently, Larae was listening to the show from the very beginning and saw our original photo on the show and thought your voice was attached to my face and my voice was attached to your face, and then realized that we were swapped and was very disoriented by it all. And I was so intrigued by this Freaky Friday voice swap situation thing. I thought that was hilarious, and I'm trying to imagine how someone hears your voice and sees my face and thinks that, and then vice versa. It's hilarious to me, so I love that. But shout out to Larae Ferry.
With all due respect.
Oh, this is about to be disrespectful. I can feel it.
With all due respect, okay? Let's just say, okay? Your body, your physicality, your person, that's better. Your person couldn't handle, all of this.
Oh.
And it's no shade. Because our persons are different. Our persons are different.
Wow. Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
I don't think
that's
you
all
can
I'm
handle
saying.
all of this.
And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I don't want to handle none of that. I don't want to handle none of it.
You'd be overwhelmed. They'd be like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. So shout out to Larae Ferry. I've listened to people on the radio a number of times and then like actually seen their faces and been like, oh, this is what you look like. So I get that. Shout out to Larae. Now it's time for
Black History is happening every day. Alrighty then. It's going to go to Texas Southern University's cheer squad, which made history recently by becoming the first historically Black college to win a national title at the National Cheerleaders Association College National Championship. This was in the Cheer Spirit Rally Division I category. Now, I really did this story here in this section because now I need a bring it on reboot, inspiration. It can even be a separate, entity altogether give me a movie about the first Black cheerleading team to win the national championship. Come on now, that would be amazing to watch.
Well, I'm doing a Google because I'm like, I feel like there was a Bring It On the musical, and I feel like I saw that. But I'm realizing how long ago that was. That was years and years ago. And 2011 was the first performance, apparently. It was written by Tom Kitt, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Amanda Green, and Jeff Whitty. I want to see like the reboot that Gabrielle Union is a part of, right? Like where these girls are going in, she's the coach, right? She's come back, and the Toros are here giving it the shit.
Absolutely. I want to see it right now. Absolutely. It can be, similar to what they did with her character from Bad Boys. And they did, the TV show with her and Jessica Alba, which is really cute. They go my propaganda again. Anyway, if they, it just slip out. It just slip out from time to time. But if they do give me a series, I would watch a limited series of Gabrielle Union as the coach of the Compton Clovers, all these years later, going for the new national championship or whatever. Anyway, I just wanted to read this quote.
Oh, I said the Toros, and that is not what I meant. I definitely meant the Clovers. Like
we knew what you meant, friend. Yeah. We knew what you meant, friend. I just wanted to read out this quote from the head coach, Chantrice Camo. When I first came to TSU, I told the team we're going to nationals. When we earned our gold bid at NCA camp, I told the team it's time to go to work. I knew this was the year and the team to get the job done. I'm so proud of them, and we're going to take the cheer program next. And so, I just wanted to shout him out because I love a little cheerleader moment. Okay, it really does well to my spirit.
Can we spend another 30 seconds here? Because I feel like the show is almost developed. So Gabrielle Union,
okay, Jarrett Hill
is the coach. She's come back and she's like had the world championships. she's, you know, she went away and maybe she was an accountant and she's like, I just really want to get back to my roots in cheer. And she comes back to Compton, right, from the big city. Maybe it was Los Angeles. And she is back with the Clovers, and the girls they're not giving what they need to give. They're too much on the TikTok, right? But she sees something in them because they hitting them, you know, them things, right? And she's like, oh, y'all got it, but you ain't doing it right. And pulls them together, very Sister Mary Clarence, not Sister Mary fake, right? And brings it in and hits, and the girls go to the championship, and maybe they are on the third season of a show like a Cheer, where they really blow up on social media because they've got people watching them, and they're able to go to the championships. You're welcome. You love it?
I don't know. I think you might have made it a little complicated there near the end, friend.
I put too much on at the end.
Yeah.
I could have cut it like 5 seconds.
Yeah, you went too far.
We did a 2-hour movie when it should have been about 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't need the
That's
cheer.
fair.
We didn't need the cheer. We didn't need the cheer element. Anyway,
we want to encourage y'all to check us out on another show. We have a new episode of Pop Culture Happy Hour that comes out the same day as this episode of FANTI. It's on Monique's new special on Netflix. It is called My Name is Monique, and Tre'vell and I are there talking with Aisha Harris. We did an episode similarly around Rothaniel, which was really fantastic. So this felt like a bit of a follow-up to that. So go check out that episode. It's really, really great. If you are watching us on YouTube, we appreciate you. And if you're new to the show, we have 3 seasons of episodes on the podcast version, where you can go check out us talking about all kinds of different topics and people and situations and the ways that Tre'vell has been traumatic to my life.
you love it.
If you have a comment or suggestion about this week, we are at FANTI on Instagram, Twitter, and the TikTok machine. Use the hashtag FANTIFam, or you can shoot us an email to fanti@maximumfun.org.
As always, if you'd like to help us make this wonderful, fabulous show that you say you love, MaximumFun.org/join is the place to go. Our music, as always, is brought to you by the Grammy Award-winning Corece. That's COR.ECE, wherever you get slave word their music. Our graphics are by Ashley Wynn and the folks over at Moonhouse Creative. Our editor is Anne-Marie Huber, and our producer is Palmira Muniz.
It's growing. I see that. Okay. Our singer-producer is Laura Swisher.
Uh-oh.
My voice.
Okay.
Okay. This is a production of Maximum Fun.